howdy, folks. Now, you might think all guns are created equal, but let me tell you something that'll blow your mind harder than a 50 BMG through a watermelon. The gun you carry says more about your bank account than your credit score, your car payment, and that embarrassing amount you spend on energy drinks, all combined. See, there are two types of gun owners in this world. Those who like to shop like they're preparing for the apocalypse on a McDonald's budget, and those who buy firearms like they're collecting Ferraris. And today we're going to dive deep into 15 guns that'll either make you look broker than a college student, or richer than a tech CEO who just sold his startup. But here's a kicker, and this might surprise you. Sometimes the poor gun will outshoot the rich gun every single time. So buckle up, because we're about to take a wild ride through the world of budget blasters and bougie bangers. Now, before we get started, I do want to be crystal clear about something. When I say poor and rich guns, I ain't talking about the quality of your character or your worth as a human being. I'm talking about what these firearms say about your wallet's current relationship status with your bank account. So nobody get hurt here. We're going to go back and forth between budget options that'll get the job done without requiring you to sell a kidney, and premium pieces that cost more than some folks' annual salary. From concealed carry to precision rifles, we are covering it all. And stick around till the end, because I got a story about the most expensive gun purchase I ever witnessed that'll make your jaw drop faster than brass in a machine gun shoot. Let's start with a Hi-Point C9. Bless your heart if you carry this gun. Now, don't get me wrong, I respect the hustle. The Hi-Point C9's like that friend who shows up to help you move. It's ugly, it's heavy, but it gets the job done. This thing right here weighs about as much as a small anvil and has the ergonomics of a cinder block, but here's the thing. It'll go bang every time you pull that trigger. Okay, maybe sometimes. At around $200 new, it's cheaper than most people's monthly phone bill. The Hi-Point C9's proof that you don't need to break the bank to exercise your Second Amendment rights. But let's be real here, carrying a Hi-Point's like driving a 95 Honda Civic with 300,000 miles on it. It will get you where you need to go, but you ain't winning any style points. The slide's made out of Zamic, which is basically fancy pot metal, and the whole thing feels like it was assembled by someone who learned gunsmithing from a YouTube video. Still, I have got some respect for Hi-Point owners. Y'all are practical, no-nonsense folks who understand that having a gun is better than not having a gun, regardless of what gun snobs at the range might whisper behind your back. Now we're jumping from the deep end of the budget pool straight into the champagne wishes and caviar dreams section. The Wilson Combat EDC X9 subcompact ain't just a gun, it's a statement piece that screams, "I have arrived and I have brought my accountant." At around $3,000, this little beauty costs more than some people's entire gun collection, but sweet mother of John Moses Browning, this thing is a work of art. We're talking hand-fitted parts, match-grade barrel, and a trigger so crisp it makes a fresh apple jealous. Wilson Combat has been making custom 1911s since before some of y'all were born, and they've taken all that knowledge and crammed it into a subcompact package. The X9 holds 15 plus 1 rounds of 9mm in a package smaller than most full-size pistols. And this mug shoots flatter than Kansas. If you're carrying one of these, you're either really successful, really bad with money, or you inherited it from a rich uncle who had an excellent taste in firearms. Either way, you got a gun that'll probably outlast your grandchildren and it'll shoot better than most people ever will. Moving into shotgun territory, we've got the Maverick 88, which is basically what happens when a Mossberg decides to make a shotgun for folks who shop at Walmart and aren't ashamed about it. At around $200, this pump-action 12-gauge is the automotive equivalent of a base model pickup truck. It ain't pretty, but it will haul your stuff. The Maverick 88 shares a lot of DNA with its fancy cousin, the Mossberg 500, but they cut corners like a NASCAR driver on a final lap. The safety's in the front of the trigger guard instead on top of the receiver, and the action bars are not as smooth as butter on a hot skillet. Repeat, they are not. But here's the thing, for home defense, this shotgun will absolutely get the job done. Nothing says get off my property quite like the sound of a pump-action shotgun being racked. It's reliable, it's affordable, and it's been protecting American homes since the Clinton administration. If you got a Maverick 88 by your bedside, you're practical, budget conscious, and you understand that sometimes the best gun is one you can actually afford. But now let's take a step into the realm of shotgun royalty with the Benelli Super Black Eagle 3. At around $1,800, this Italian stallion's what's happened when you combine European engineering with American waterfowl hunting obsessions. This semi-automatic beauty will cycle everything from light target loads to 3.5-inch magnums without missing a beat. The inertia-driven system is smoother than a jazz saxophone solo, and it's been the choice of serious waterfowl hunters who need reliability when the ducks are flying and the weather's nastier than a wet cat. Benelli's been making shotguns since 1967. They perfected the art of making firearms that work in conditions that would make other guns cry for their mamas. The Super Black Eagle 3 is like the Ferrari of duck guns. It's fast, it's reliable, and it costs enough to make your spouse question your life choices. If you are carrying one of these into the marsh, you're either a serious waterfowl hunter who understands that good gear costs money, or you're trying to impress the other guys in your hunting party. Either way, you've got a shotgun that'll serve you well for decades to come. The Savage Axis is the hunt and rifle equivalent of a participation trophy. It shows up, it tries its best, but ain't nobody gonna write home about it. At around $300, it's what you buy when you need a deer rifle and your budget's tighter than bark on a tree. Now don't get me wrong, the Axis will put meat in the freezer. Savage has been making accurate rifles since before your great-grandpappy was born, and they know how to make a barrel that shoots straight. The AccuTrigger is actually pretty decent for a budget rifle, and it'll group better than you'd expect for something that costs less than a nice dinner for two. But the stock feels like it was carved from recycled milk jugs, and the whole thing has the fit and finish of a high school shop class project, probably because it was one. It's functional, it's affordable, and it gets the job done without any frills or fancy features. If you're hunting with a Savage Axis, well, you're either just getting started in the hunting game, or you're one of those practical folks who believes that spending more money on a rifle won't make you a better shot. And you know what? You're probably right. Oh boy. Now we're talking about the Barrett MRAD, which stands for Multi-Role Adaptive Design. But I like to call it more range and destruction. At around $6,000, this precision rifle costs more than some people's cars and shoots farther than most folks can see. This ain't just a hunting rifle, it's what happens when military precision meets civilian wallets. The MRAD can swap calibers faster than a politician changes positions. And it's accurate enough to put rounds through the same hole at distances that make a prairie dog nervous. Barrett has been making rifles that can reach out and touch someone since the 1980s. And this gun right here represents the pinnacle of their engineering. We're talking sub-MOA accuracy, modular design, and enough precision to make a Swiss watchmaker jealous. My guy, if you're hunting with an MRAD, you're either a serious long-range enthusiast who understands that precision costs money, or you got more dollars than cents. Either way, you've got a rifle that can make shots most people would consider impossible. The Anderson AM-15, affectionately known as the poverty pony in AR-15 circles. This is what happens when you want to join the Black Rifle Club, but your budget's more ramen noodles than ribeye steak. At around $500, it's the cheapest way to get into the AR-15 game without building one yourself from parts you found in the dumpster. Now, Anderson gets a lot of grief from the AR snobs, but here is the truth. This rifle will go bang when you pull the trigger, and it'll put rounds where you point it. Sure, the fit and the finish might not be as tight as a high-end rifle, and the parts might not be as fancy, but it's still a functioning AR-15. The Poverty Pony is like the great value brand of AR-15s. It does what it's supposed to do without any of the fancy packaging. Receivers are in spec, the barrel's straight, and it'll accept all the standard AR-15 parts and accessories. If you're rocking an Anderson AM-15, you're either budget conscious or just getting started in the AR world, or you understand that having an AR-15 is better than not having one, regardless of what those internet commandos might say. Now we're stepping into the big leagues of the Daniel Defense DDM-4, which costs around $2,000 and is what happens when you want a rifle that's been battle-tested by folks who do violence for a living. This ain't just an AR-15, it's a precision instrument that has been refined through years of military and law enforcement use. Daniel Defense has been making rifles for the military since 2000. And let me tell you, in that time, they've learned a thing or two about building guns that work when your life depends on it. The DDM-4 features a cold hammer-forged barrel, free-floating rail system, and quality control that would make a German engineer blush. This rifle shoots straighter than an arrow, runs cleaner than a whistle, and is more reliable than your favorite hunting dog. The fit and the finish are both impeccable, and every part's been designed and tested to military specifications. If you're carrying a Daniel Defense rifle, you're either a serious shooter who understands that quality costs money, a law enforcement officer who needs the best, or you got enough disposable income to buy the good stuff. Either way, you got a rifle that'll serve you well for a long time. The Taurus G3 is kind of like that friend who means well but sometimes lets you down when you need him most. At around $250, it's affordable, it's functional, and it comes with Taurus's famous "it might work perfectly or it might explode" quality control. Now, I've seen G3s that run like Swiss watches, and I've seen others that jam more than a traffic light in downtown Atlanta. Taurus has been trying to shake their reputation for inconsistent quality for years, and the G3 Well, that represents their latest attempt to build a reliable, affordable pistol. The gun holds 15 plus 1 rounds of 9mm, has a decent trigger for the price point, and comes with features that you'd expect on more expensive guns. But here's the thing, with Taurus, you're playing the lottery. You might get a great gun, or you might get one that needs to go back to the factory more often than a rental car. If you're carrying a G3, you're either budget conscious, willing to take on Brazilian engineering, or you get a good deal and you just decide to roll the dice. Just make sure you test it thoroughly before you trust your life to it, okay? Now, the Staccato 2011 is what happens when you take the classic 1911 design and drag it kicking and screaming into the 21st century. At around $2,500, this double-stack wonder is like the Tesla of pistols. It's innovative, it's expensive, and it makes traditional gun owners question everything they thought they once knew. Now, Staccato, formerly STI, has been building competition-grade pistols since the 1980s, and the 2011 represents the pinnacle of that engineering. We're talking match-grade accuracy, lightning-fast splits, and reliability that would make a Glock owner jealous. The 2011 platform combines a crisp trigger and ergonomics of a 1911 with the capacity and reliability of a modern striker-fired pistol. It's like having your cake and eating it too, if your cake costs more than most people's monthly rent. If you're carrying a Staccato 2011, you're either a serious comp shooter, a law enforcement officer with excellent taste, or you got enough money to buy the absolute best. Either way, you got a pistol that represents the cutting edge of handgun technology. Let's talk about the Heritage Rough Rider 22 caliber. This is what happens when you want to feel like Clint Eastwood, but your budget's more ramen western than spaghetti western. At around $150, this single-action revolver is cheaper than most people's monthly streaming subscriptions and about as authentic as a $3 bill. Now, don't get me wrong, the Rough Rider is fun to shoot, and it'll introduce you to the world of single-action revolvers without breaking the bank. It's made in the Philippines with quality control that's about as consistent as the weather, but for plinking and pretending you're a gunslinger, it gets the job done. The fit and the finish are what you'd expect for the price, functional but not fancy. The timing might be a little bit off. The cylinder might not lock up as tight as a Swiss watch, but it goes bang when you pull that trigger. And that's about all you can ask for that price point. If you got a Heritage Rough Rider, you're either just getting started with revolvers, or you wanted something fun to plink with, or maybe you're just teaching your kids the basic of firearms safety. It's a perfectly adequate starter revolver that will not break your bank. However, we are going to talk about the Smith & Wesson Performance Center 686 Plus, which is what happens when you take an already excellent revolver and hand it over to the wizards at the Performance Center. At around $1,200, this .357 Magnum wheel gun is like the Rolex of revolvers. It's precise, it's beautiful, and it costs enough to make your accountant weep. The Performance Center 686 Plus features a match-grade barrel, custom trigger job, and attention to detail that is just profound. Every part has been hand-fitted and tested to ensure that this revolver shoots better than you probably ever will. Smith & Wesson has been making revolvers since 1852. And they've learned a thing or two about building wheel guns that work. The 686 Plus holds 7 rounds of .357 Magnum, has a trigger smoother than aged whiskey, and probably outlasts your grandchildren. If you're carrying one of these bad boys, you're either a serious revolver enthusiast who appreciates that craftsmanship, a collector who wants the best, or you got enough money to buy quality and you ain't afraid to spend it. Either way, you got a revolver that represents the absolute pinnacle of American craftsmanship. Ruger American Predator is like the Honda Civic of hunting rifles. It's reliable, it's affordable, and it gets the job done without any fuss or fanfare. At around $450, it's what you buy when you need an accurate rifle, but you didn't want to take out a second mortgage to afford it. Ruger's been making these firearms since 1949, and they've mastered the art of building guns that work without breaking the bank. The American Predator features a cold hammer forged barrel, adjustable trigger, and enough accuracy to put rounds where you point it out to reasonable distances. The synthetic stock feels like, well, synthetic. And the whole rifle itself has the aesthetic appeal of a government-issued clipboard, but here's the thing, it shoots straight, it's reliable, and it won't leave you eating ramen noodles for the next 6 months. If you're hunting with a Ruger American Predator, you're practical, budget conscious, and you understand that expensive doesn't always mean better. You're the kind of person who buys a truck based on reliability rather than how shiny the chrome is. Holy smokes, we're talking about the Accuracy International AXMC. which costs around $7 grand and represents what happens when British engineering meets military precision requirements. This ain't just a rifle, it's a precision instrument that can put rounds through the same hole at distances that would make a mathematician nervous. Accuracy International has been building sniper rifles for military and law enforcement since the 1980s. The AXMC represents the pinnacle of their engineering. We're talking sub-half MOA accuracy, modular design that can swap calibers faster than a politician changes positions, and build quality that'll make a Rolls-Royce engineer jealous. This rifle right here features a folding stock, adjustable everything, and enough precision to make shots that most people would consider witchcraft. It is what serious long-range shooters use when they need to reach out and touch something at distances measured in football fields. If you're shooting an AXMC, you're either a serious precision rifle competitor, a law enforcement sniper, or you got enough money to buy it the absolute best and you are not afraid to spend that money. Either way, you got a rifle that represents the cutting edge of precision shooting technology. And now, the Rourbaugh R9. Rolls-Royce of pocket pistols that costs over $1,200, weighs less than a smartphone, but packs more punch than a heavyweight boxer. This little beaut is what happens when you want maximum firepower and minimum package and money is no object. The R9 was built in New York City by craftsmen who understood that sometimes you need a gun that disappears in your pocket, but still shoots a serious caliber. At just 12.8 ounces unloaded, this 9mm pocket rocket, smaller than most 380s, but packs that punch of a full-size pistol. Rourbaugh only made these guns for a few years before shutting down, which means owning one is like having a unicorn in your holster. The fit and the finish are impeccable. The engineering here is brilliant, folks, and the price tag reflects the fact that you're buying a piece of firearms history. If you got an R9, my friend, you are a serious collector who appreciates that fine craftsmanship, or maybe someone who needs maximum concealment with serious firepower, or maybe you managed to snag one before they became rarer than a hen's teeth. Now, I promised y'all a story about the most expensive gun purchase I ever witnessed, and here it is. I was at a gun show a few years back when this fella walks up to a table displaying a pair of matching Purdy shotguns. Now, when I talk about this, I'm talking $150,000 for the pair. This guy looks at them for about 30 seconds, pulls out his phone, makes a call and says, "Honey, I'm buying some shotguns." Turns out he's a tech bro CEO who just sold his company and he wanted to celebrate by buying the finest shotguns money could ever buy. That's when I realized that for some folks, guns aren't just tools or hobbies. They are investments, status symbols, and works of art all rolled into one. So, there you have it, folks. 15 guns that'll either make you look broker than a college student or richer than a lottery winner. Now remember, the most important thing ain't how much you spend on your gun, but how well you use it when it matters. Now, I am curious. What's the most expensive gun you've ever bought? And was it worth it? Drop your stories in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want more content just like this. And if you're still trying to figure out which guns are actually worth your hard-earned money, check out this video right here where I break down the best bang for your buck firearms that won't leave you eating beans and rice for the next 6 months. Y'all come back now, you hear?